So I'm curious, have you heard about the FIRE movement? Um, I actually started hearing about this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I had to dive in and really understand what is meant by FIRE. Obviously, it's an acronym, so let me go through that. As always, welcome to the channel, one rental at a time, and if you'd like to get a hold of me, there's my email. So as always, we're going to go through the goal of the session. First, sort of talk about what it is, why I think it's interesting for all of us to think about, and then give you my thoughts. I do have some ideas about how to get on board and some questions and whatnot that I might ask. I will talk about sort of the key aspects of FIRE. So what is it? So first off, let's talk about what it stands for. Obviously, it stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I think this is interesting because I actually announced on the first video, so video number 1 of this channel, financial independence and the fact that I retired early. And I think that video, all of about 5 or 6 minutes, actually has led some people to reach out and ask if I knew what FIRE was, and hey, have I checked out this blog, and all of those kinds of things. So I want to thank them for reaching out. It means you can quit your day job and live the rest of your life on your terms. Note you don't have to quit if you sort of follow the notion of FIRE, but um, it means you can, right? It means you have the nest egg behind you, that it doesn't matter if you show up or not. It also sort of highlights that you can choose what you want to do. This goes to hey, if you want to go volunteer, or you want to go teach golf, or you want to help people learn how to ski, or you want to help teach a second language, or whatever, right? You may make a little bit of money, but that increment doesn't really do something for you. Um, so it's not about never having a job again, but it is about choosing what you want to do and not having to show up to a job that sort of maybe sucks the life out of you, right? If you love what you do, by all means, go for it. And finally, it's just do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. I think that's a phrase that I adopted long ago when people ask why, right? And that was always my answer, and I still think it's true today. So my thoughts. I always ask this question when I'm talking to investors: is, um, you know, when you exit, how much passive income do you need? It's funny when I ask that question, I often get a funny look, um, because people don't know, right? They know they spend a lot of money now, but they don't really know what they need. So I think it's something you need to talk about. The other thing I think that's interesting, and a lot of the stuff I read about the FIRE movement, is a lot of them are obviously stock based, or mutual fund based, or index fund, and they're talking about withdrawals at 4% and all of that. I got to say, I think those should be extras for you. I don't think I personally, again, I was burned in early 2000s around the stock market crash, so maybe I'm just scarred. But I think a retirement based on 401k or stocks is, I'll just call it risky. It may be inadequate, because who's to say the market doesn't drop for 50% and stay down for 3 or 4 years? If you start withdrawing 4% on a nest egg that's now half of what it used to be, you're gonna significantly hurt your compounding and all of that. So I think 401ks are great. Maxed out one every year I was employed, so don't read this the wrong way. But I think all of that should be extras. I really think this is about having passive income from real estate or other businesses, or anything that spins off dependable cash flow. That, oh, by the way, if it happens to be indexed to inflation, all the better, right? Natural things, not some kind of gambling stock market craziness. So again, obviously I'm slanted, but that's my opinion. I think there's only 3 things that matter. Obviously, it's time, both sort of the accumulation phase, and then how long do you want to sort of plan for that money to last. Expenses, both expenses in the accumulation phase and expenses after, because that sort of drives it. And then what's your passive income, right? How much money shows up without you doing a single thing? I don't think it's about having $1 million stock portfolio, or even a $10 million stock portfolio. Right? Who's to say a depression isn't out there in the future, and it doesn't go down 90%? I don't know. I don't think it's likely, but I ask, what if? So again, here are what I think the key aspects to FIRE are. Number one is controlling your expenses, and I think it's controlling your expenses. Um, so you both really your whole life. It's not splurging. It's not having 17 different cars or three houses or anything like that. One thing I would highlight is solid health insurance when you're not employed is expensive. Um, so make sure you budget for that. Make sure you have passive investments that are funding just that, so it's covered for sure. I think you need to sacrifice early and often. I think this is where a lot of people fall down, is they're simply enjoying life as they should, right? You all work very, very hard. Um, However, if you're going to keep doing that, you're going to stay in the rat race, and you're going to keep working very, very hard for the rest of your life. And those are your choices, right? Who's to say that's wrong? What do I know? Um, but if you want to be financially independent and retire early, you're going to have to sacrifice early and often. Communication is important. I've talked about it, I think, on a couple of videos. You both need to be on the same page. I can't imagine a situation where one of you is committed to this and sacrificing, and the other one is spending, crazily on Amazon or Nordstrom's or Best Buy or golf or whatever, right? Um, you both need to be rowing the same direction, constantly communicating, having those discussions, and you're either in it together or you're not, because you can't row one way and the other one row a different way. You need time on your side. I think I call it positive compounding, right? When you make early investments in your first or second year, it may not feel like anything, but it's just those investments we made 15 years ago that are reaping the most rewards today. It's because we've had 15 years of inflation. We've had 15 years of paying down mortgages. We've had 15 years of all kinds of goodness. So you got to understand and appreciate that time is your friend. And it may not feel like your friend early, but I promise you it will be your friend later, and for much longer than it was in the beginning. I think a key aspect of financial independence in retiring early is inflation. When you're able to secure assets for 10 or 20% down payment, and then allow inflation to both help you in the asset value, which you get to keep 100%, and the rental income, which again you get to keep, I think that's great. Yeah, sure, inflation hurts and it reduces the dollar, what the dollar can buy, and all of that. But if you happen to own a bunch of assets, you'll look at inflation as your friend. Consistency. I think you need to be consistent with this. When you get on this road, and I didn't appreciate this in the beginning, but happily we were very consistent, um, even though we didn't know if it would work out, right? Because it doesn't feel like anything when the first 5 or 6 years, at least for us. When you consistently do it and you start to see and you keep adding and adding and growing, you will get to that inflection point where you go, wow, hey, honey, you can retire, you can stop working, and maybe a couple years later, like in our situation, the other one can retire. So um, you need to be consistent, and this all boils down to living below your means now, so you can invest for your future. I know that's not sexy. I know it's not fun. I mean, we gave up so much, but for 15 years, we live in a house that's much smaller than we could have afforded. We could have changed 3 times. We could have had mortgages that were 3 or 4x what we had. And if any of that were true, I would certainly still be working, and there's a good chance that Olivia still might be working. But because we were on the same page and we sacrificed and we stayed in this small condo that was well below what we could have afforded, we're able to both be done, and that's a great feeling. So I would ask you to think about this. Fast forward 10, 15, or 20 years, and how much income do you need? Right? Think about the life events that are ahead of you. Maybe your kids will be out of college and they'll be on their own. Maybe they'll be just starting college. I don't know. But think about what you're going to need, and get that number, and get on the same page. Once you're there, you need to start appreciate how long a road this might be and what sacrifices might be, and create those little inflection points in your journey. Like, hey, honey, when we hit 2,500, or we hit 700, or we hit 8 grand, whatever it is. Make sure you have those little base camps on your journey so you can appreciate where you are and that you start to feel it. That's something that I didn't do, and we eventually got there, but it was a lot riskier than it should have been. We should have taken a breath and appreciated where we were. Um, Finally, it's just having that slow pace, right? Understand that in the beginning it's going to feel slow, but if you get slow and consistent with passive income and real estate investing, it's going to help. It's going to compound, and you will be in a much better position in 10 or 15 or 20 years. In the end, I got to ask that if you like the video, please like it. It does help the channel. And something I'm also going to start to ask is if you could start sharing these kind of videos with your friends and family on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else. I'd greatly appreciate it. As always, if you have any questions or if you have a suggestion for a topic, go ahead and hit me up at mzuber at one rental at a time. Have a great day.